We have a winner. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. The Triumph Together Challenge is complete. We had 11 weeks of fantastic content, discussions, experiences with my co-authors. And now that the challenge is complete, we are here to announce our winner. So we announced the winner actually last week, and now we're going to bring our winner up to join us to hear their perspective and how they navigated the challenge, but also their own Triumph experiences in the workplace. So I'm super excited for this. For those of you who rode with us for all 11 weeks of the challenge, thank you ever so much for joining us. It has been such an amazing experience for me, and I keep getting such positive feedback about what people heard or where people felt seen in a way that they hadn't felt seen before. And I also got a lot of feedback for people that are in a variety of stages of whether it's job searching or starting a new job or been in a role for a while, and how depending on what stage you're in that experience, that's going to have a direct impact on how you interpret the book and how you interpret the Triumph Together Challenge. So it has been just covering all the spectrums. It's been such a good experience, and I'm excited to be here today with our winner. So this is a recorded version that will go live on our regularly scheduled live time on July 9th, 2024 at noon. So what we're going to do here is going to feel a little bit more like a podcast experience. It's going to feel a little bit question and answer, but really what I want to hear is the perspective of someone who wasn't an author in the Triumph in the Trenches anthology. Because the last 11 weeks have given me a chance to talk to the authors, and that has been simply amazing. And I've learned so much about the why behind so much of those chapters and the richness of the author's experience. So now I want to hear from a reader. I want to hear from a winner reader. So I want to introduce all of you all to our amazing winner, Akita Neely. I'm going to bring her to stage so that she can join us. Welcome, Akita. So happy to have you.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you for having me, and thank you for naming me the winter. I'm so honored to be here with you today. And I would definitely like to, before we get started, give a shout out and a thank you to all the authors of Triumph in the Trenches. I think that the content is so valuable on every level and all the perspectives. It's really going to be a resource for me going forward.
Amazing. So I love to hear that. And the reason why I'm smiling is because not only are we going to be able to have a conversation about the book itself, but Akita's been a longtime supporter of Gems for the Journey, a longtime supporter of the podcast. So it's always like, oh, full circle moments like this just make me so happy. And you guys know I try to be very honest and transparent. I'm not going to navigate my own truth without telling you the truth, that I love to be able to hear from actual people who are experiencing not just the content that we're producing, but then the book itself. It's just like chef's kiss. So we're going to get right into it so I can make sure I am super respectful of Akita's time and give you guys the density of the gems and the value that she's going to bring just in her own perspective. So first, Akita, just tell me how you came across the Triumph Together Challenge and what made you decide you wanted to participate.
So thank you again for allowing me to speak with you today. But in terms of learning about the Triumph for the Trenches Challenge, it's really being an ally and a follower of Gems for the Journey. It's listening to you and all the people that you bring onto your podcast or your LinkedIn showcase every week, and really learning about, all the chapters, all the authors that brought their, specific and lessons that they've brought to the anthology. So I learned by staying close just for this journey and looking for my newsletter.
Excellent.
Really, yes.
Look at you. Excellent answer. So I think the more that I have gotten to sit with the book itself, I think it kind of makes me really biased, right? Like inevitably I'm biased because I agree. I think it's an amazing work, and I think it's going to be a resource that people can use in the future for their career and just for their life, especially when you think about folks who are early career to mid-career and trying to navigate what may be coming ahead for them as they navigate corporate, because we know it's coming, right? If you haven't had one of the experiences in the chapters yet, one of them will resonate with you because it talks about different sectors, whether it's corporate or nonprofit or academia or any of those areas. So I know you have a background in corporate America, and I wanted to just get a perspective, especially as a Black woman working in corporate America. Was there anything that resonated with you personally? Specifically, both of us are here with our, Black women hair, right? And that natural hair experience, and what people are navigating on a regular basis sometimes can have a specific impact. So as we think about the Crown Act and that really critical legislation that really allows more people to have the protections that go along with being themselves and showing up in their authentic version of themselves. Talk to me just a little bit about your experience in, your triumph as you think about the Crown Act and navigating a professional, and I'm going to air quotes for professional, but corporate workplace as a Black woman with naturally curly hair.
Absolutely. I think, looking at the span of my career, and we're talking over 20 years in corporate America, and thinking back to even early childhood, when I was 4 or 5 years old, my mother had trouble, combing my hair. So I was very early to get a relaxer and to make things easier in life. So I grew up with a relaxer and had ongoing relaxers until I was in college, and felt that, with the flat iron came out when I was in college, or really was, amplified. You straighten your hair with a flat iron instead of having to use chemicals to continue to straighten your hair was the way to go. So when I got into corporate America, it was a pressure to, I in my head, I equalized, me having straight hair would equal me continuing to ascend my career within the corporation, because I assimilated and looked like the other women that were getting promotions, that were, leading the company, that were on the senior leadership team. I felt that was, my me straighten my hair, it would be easier for me to get there. It wasn't until, I had a daughter myself, and I saw her, really appreciating Barbie's hair more than she appreciated her own hair, that I felt it was really important for me to show up and appreciate the hair that grew out of my head. And that in turn equalized to me wearing my hair naturally at work, wearing my hair naturally at home, and not playing, allegiance to this flat iron that I had to really use on a daily basis, because I'm also an active athlete. So I work out on a daily basis, and my hair would go back, go way back. And I would really, after working out, I would either have to blow dry it and then, start all over and flat iron it on a daily basis. And that just really got tiring. I really was just like fed up between, my daughter wanting hair that looked like Barbie, and, me trying to keep up with having to straighten my hair on a daily basis. It became too much. It was just much easier for me to be my authentic self and wear my hair as it comes out of my head.
So your story is one that I'm sure thousands upon thousands of women can tell, of navigating what it does professional look like, right? As you're transitioning from college into a workplace setting, but also just this idea of, I love that in college you were able to have a different set of experiences, right? Because now you have a sense of autonomy that maybe didn't exist, right, in your younger years. So I think that resonates with a lot of people, but I also think this idea of showing up to a professional workspace in the version of yourself that you feel most confident in and most capable in, and then not believing or not being burdened with the expectation or bias that your hair means something different than everybody else. And I think so many Black women are constantly navigating, what does professional look like, and what is the culture in their organization or workplace, and will they be in some way set aside or penalized or judged? And I think the Crown Act legislation was so important to bring that discussion forward. And I think a lot of people may undermine or believe like, well, was it necessary? Was it overkill? But for those of us who have lived through the experience of navigating hair as a priority to decide whether we can go to work today, whether we look presentable to be able to go to work, and hair being a big determinant of that, I just feel fortunate to be living in a time where the discussions can be had. And I also feel fortunate to hear from women like you, professionals who are, phenomenal at what they do, straight hair or otherwise, right? Or curly hair and everything in between. So I love that you shared that. I think that's a story that resonates with a lot of people. And I think oftentimes, as you mentioned, being an athlete and someone who works out and like takes care of their health, right? Health is a priority. Tell me a little bit more about what your athlete routine looks like for you. And I understand that you're a multi-sport athlete, but you're
I'll just tell my whole story. Go ahead. So I started out as a swimmer, and that was like my first passion, my first love. And I'm talking about from the age of 5 and 6, I started competitively swimming. And so given that that was my first love and my passion, I, grew up swimming and really learned how to, the takeaways that I got from swimming was the dedication. And we're talking about, from 5th grade, all the way throughout college. I received a college scholarship for swimming. I was dedicated to the sport in that I swam twice a day. In addition to, going to high school and completing college and not just swimming, but weight training and cross training and running and doing stairs and all the things. I felt like I was an Olympic athlete, even though I never made the Olympics. So I really trained extremely hard for my sport and really was in love with swimming. And the way that swimming works is everybody's time. There's no question about how good you are because of your time. And so when I got to the corporate world and, the work product that, initially, when I went into corporate, the work product that I produced, I was in sales. So it was very easy to understand the value that you bring to the corporation because of the amount of sales that you work.
Right.
But as I navigated through corporate, I went from sales into an operations position where I was in field operations and I was outside, and it was less. It became more subjective. Even though I got rated and ranked on the quality of work and the precision that the technicians did, then at some point it began to transfer as my positions went. As I ascended my career, it began to transfer into subjective. So really the lessons from that is that everything doesn't transfer to that. I can't put my head down and move my body and be a good listener and really it's subjective to the person that's leading your team or leading you. And in terms of listening and things of that sort, you don't in swimming, you really don't have a time to give feedback. You don't have a time to speak up about the coaching that you're receiving because you're in the water and your head is down and your goal is to, get fastest to the wall. So when I went to corporate, I was used to just listening as I did in swimming and not really giving feedback. And really, quite honestly, early in my career, I didn't have that confidence to give the feedback in a great way. I didn't have until, recently, I definitely didn't have the confidence to give feedback to my boss. I didn't have the security to do that. And all those, all those things that, come as you ascend your career and come as I've navigated through over 20 years in my career, it's really, the takeaways is that you definitely have to do a good job. You have to do your best. But at the end of the day, it's a collaborative effort. It's not just a one-way street in terms of how you navigate.
So what I heard there was a couple things. I want to you dropped a couple gems there, and I want to make sure that people get to take them and digest them. So first is navigating from maybe early career into a corporate environment requires an adjustment in understanding how you are measured, right? Understanding the measurement of corporate America or nonprofit leadership or academia is so important so that not only can you get measured accurately, but also, you said, to be able to give feedback or ask questions or provoke an important discussion. So I think that that is so critical. Oftentimes, a lot of times, you can see it as an athlete and as a multi-sport athlete, but even when you think about college and elementary school and high school and all of those early indications are based on what seem to be more objective measures, right? I got this many questions right on a test. I got this grade that gives me an A. And that correlation carries all the way up through college. And then you're in a place where you don't have that same evidence-based way of being managed or being graded, scored. And for a lot of people, that can be like topsy-turvy, right? It can knock us off our square because now we're feeling challenged. What do I grasp for? This may be feeling more like a likability measure as opposed to what I can deliver to the business. And I think when I think about the Triumph in the Trenches anthology and how there are things that are not on the page that are a part of your experience that you have to bring and you have to evolve in order to be successful, that is so huge. Going from understanding how you're being measured, what are the priorities of the person that's are measuring you, and then keeping your receipts, right? Keeping your documentation so that when you have that performance evaluation at the end, it's a series of things that you have tracked, that you are confident in, that you've been able to make progress towards, and it shouldn't feel like a surprise. So if you're listening as a manager, performance review should never feel like a surprise. And then the last thing that you said there that really resonated with me personally as I think about being a part of this anthology is when you get to a place where you are more confident to be able to use your voice, speak up for yourself, speak up for causes and things that are very important to you, it will change the environment for you completely. And I think more of us are coming into that space now. But I'd love to hear from your perspective because there's an introvert versus extrovert, right? Element, right? You would describe me as an extrovert. Most people would, right? And
No,
no, not at all. I just talk to people for a living. But like as an introvert, I think it's really important for an acknowledgement of the value that introverts bring to the workplace as people who are very good listeners and are thoughtful in their ability to respond. So just tell me just a little bit about how you believe navigating and being an introvert in corporate America has impacted your ability to use your voice now, 20 years of amazing experience with Fortune 100 companies.
Yeah. I think it's a level of growth within being an introvert. It's understanding that you're an introvert and then taking small steps of putting yourself out there in order to be able to grow in the areas that you want to grow. I think introverts are extreme strategists in their minds. I have this whole set of strategies and whole set of thoughts that, I end up telling myself or even just talking to myself about it that often people don't hear. And then when it's time to bring it out, I think sometimes that it may be lost in translation or I may not fully explain it because I've already explained it to myself. So being an introvert is I think we are, some of the most smartest people, but we may not be perceived as that way because we don't necessarily tell everybody that we're smart. We just know it internally. Like I don't have to tell you what I already know, right? So
part of it is an internal confidence, right? It's an internal confidence
really
that I don't.
It's just figuring out how to navigate so that people know it. I think for a long time, I was laid off, so I lost that confidence. And for a whole year, like trying to convince people, and the hardest area for me was just really in the interview process to get a position. Like I had been phenomenal in my job, so it wasn't something where I had failed in the position that I had. But at that time, everybody was being laid off. Companies were downsizing quite a bit. So, and me navigating on having to really sell myself in a way that I never had to sell myself before, because all of the areas and the places that I was able to navigate through the previous company that I really got tapped on. It was really me getting tapped for the next position because I had showcased, my talents and skills, and never ever did I have to tell somebody about my talents and skills because I'd already showcased those things. So, and navigating as an introvert, it's really figuring out how to showcase those skills and tell people about how wonderful you are and the areas that the things that you do well, instead of just telling yourself.
So the honesty that you're able to bring to this, I absolutely love it. And it's so much a reflection, or not a reflection, in concert with the Triumph in the Trenches anthology. I'm sorry, I was coughing off mic. But when you talk about getting laid off and figuring out how to recommit yourself to a search, a career search, and then selling yourself is the real requirement. And I want to really encourage folks, selling yourself is a part of your career extensively, the whole way through. Oftentimes we are put in this position where it's a matter of who is making the decision and do they know you well enough to give you an offer, to give you an opportunity, to give you that promotion. And I think some of us have not gotten the memo of like, you got to be selling yourself and giving your receipts and bringing your value to the organization and talking about it often. And I find that introverts bring tremendous amounts of value, but don't promote themselves vocally, right? Or communicatively the same way that extroverts may. So I thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people are navigating getting laid off, job loss, underemployment. We talked about that on a previous episode of the podcast. So I just love that you're like, just bringing the heat. And I always love the honesty. So then talk to me just a little bit about what are some of the things within the Triumph in the Trenches anthology that really stood out for you, gems that you're going to carry forward, either for yourself or, you just explained that you have over 20 years experience. Are there other people that you are bringing up through the professional ranks and you feel like these are resources or acknowledgments that are going to benefit them if they have these gems going forward in their own career? So what's for you? And then are there some things that you think for folks who are early career that you may be mentoring or sponsoring through corporate America?
For me, I think the biggest takeaway for me in terms of the book of Triumph of the Trenches is really as a resource to go back and listen to the stories of other people from the perspective of being Black. I think there are a lot of self-help books available to for everybody to read, but they don't have the same perspective of being Black, of just aligning with some things that happen to us that don't necessarily happen to everybody else. I think on the line of microaggressions, and then understanding and how they may be little things, but they add up and could be very detrimental to your experience and the culture at work. And really, I think the other thing is delving into lifelong education. I think that's the other big thing for me, is like knowing that we always have to continually understand that we have to continually learn as things change. As we grow up, we're not like I'm young, but in that youth, I'd like to say that I've really made it one of my mindsets to never stop learning, to always continuing to push myself, even after, receiving an MBA, and even after just really not saying no to any opportunities that I have to continue to learn. So those are the two biggest takeaways that I have. I will definitely move forward and use Triumph of the Trenches as a resource book, and just, when it feels good that other people say things and see things that you see, and to be able to read up on that and understand how other people like myself have navigated through is really an impact that you can't deny.
So I love that you said there are other books out there, right? Because we're not pretending that there are other great resources out there, but specifically tailored to experiences of Black professionals is the reason why I thought it was so important that the book needed to exist. I sincerely think, speaking directly to people who look like me as an author, was not only empowering, but I think it's going to set people free of some misconceptions, right? Like, am I the only one that are having these experiences? Am I the only one who's having a difficult time navigating microaggressions with my coworkers? No matter where you are in the world, no matter where you are in your professional journey or what sector of the economy you choose to work in, there are still some universal facts. And I was surprised, and I felt so supported in navigating the author community. And now seeing that people will get to benefit from that, it's just the most gratifying experience possible as an author, but also as someone who works directly with professionals on a consistent basis. Most of my clients are women or minorities, mostly Black. So to be able to say now there's a reference tool, not only from me, but from, we have doctors, we have PhDs, MDs, master's degrees, psychologists, like it covered so many things. And I'm just really proud of the work, but I'm more proud of the challenge and the experience that I got to have with the co-authors. And I just want to thank you so much for being the winner of our challenge and for riding with us. Now, listen, y'all, Akita mentioned the book itself. She's so happy to be here. She was a phenomenal guest. She also mentioned the newsletter. Like, she has been a longtime supporter of Career Gems for the Journey, and we really, really appreciate that level of support. But we also want to encourage folks, if you have yet to take advantage of all of those other assets and resources that we have, whether it's the newsletter or whether it's career tools on the website, take advantage of them because they exist for a reason. And we have people like Akita not only to thank for participating, but also as the inspiration. When we think about supporting professionals, it's from a real perspective. It's from a real place of people who are experiencing what we talked about in the book, but also experiencing their own unique challenges. And that's really why I do this work. That's really what it comes down to. It's to see somebody else win and benefit from experiences that we've either had or that I can collect and bring together is just super, super impactful in the imprint and the impression that I want to leave on the world and especially on my own career story. So thank you so much, Akita, for being an amazing guest, for taking the time to join us today. Thank you for participating in the challenge and congratulations on winning the challenge. So Akita will get another copy. Obviously has her first copy. She'll get another copy of the Triumph in the Trenches anthology to gift to someone else. And we will continue to invite her to be a part of our community. And the Gems for the Journey community is benefited by having people like you in it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Ride with us next time. We're going to take a nice, long, restful hiatus. For those of you who didn't see our last post, we will be back August 6th. So we're going to take a break from lives. We're going to take a break from all things social media and be back August 6th. And we'll have a whole new set of content specifically designed for you. So in the meantime, make your journey work for you, and we will see you on the other side.